let me in the next section show you a formalization of the problem where we first ignore some of the problems, and we'll come back to them a little bit at the end. And you'll see even the resulting problem is still kind of juicy enough, or hard enough to solve. To make things easier, I'm making an assumption that the fragments of the genome I get are covering every possible starting position. All of this module will use k-mers just because the bioinformatics people tend to use this. It's just a length k substring. But I think because they got annoyed by saying length k substring a million times, they say, oh, it's a k-mer. But it's nothing fancy. Then if we're given a text, say our genome, and some length for these k-mers, then the input to our problem will be this. The k-mer composition of a text is just all these contiguous length k substrings that the text has. So every possible starting position, you take the substring of length k, all the k-mers in the string. Now, as indicated with these double braces, in general, that's a multiset, right? You can have repeated parts, and that would mean that some k-mers might occur more than once. So if you're given a text, it's of course easy to produce this k-mer composition, just listing all the substrings. The problem that we're trying to solve is of course the reverse problem. Okay, here's an example just to make sure. Here I've sorted them alphabetically to make it a little less obvious, or to show the duplicates more clearly. There's a stretch of, thank you. Come on. There's a stretch of 4 G's. So I'm going to have the first 3 and the second 3. That's why GGG occurs twice, and so on and so forth. Life gets interesting when you try to reverse. Someone might promise you, and that's our assumption, that we get a multiset of these k-mers that comes from some specific text. And then we're trying to reconstruct that text. This is easier than the biological motivation problem for several reasons. One, we don't have sequencing errors. But 2, also the assumption that we have a k-mer from every possible starting position and exactly once will help us a lot in kind of removing some ambiguity. I'll come back a bit later to motivate parts of why this is not completely hopeless, even in the data from applications. But for now, let's ignore this and just take all the possible k-length substrings exactly once. Okay? All right, let's look at some examples. So here's a composition, a 3 composition of some text. I'm going to give you a hint. The number of k-mers is 5. So if I want 5 things in here, there's 0 up to n minus k. And n minus k is included. So the number of k-mers I should have is always n minus k plus 1. So if k is 3, I can work out that from 5 k-mers, if this is 5, what's my n? Also 3. The other way around, 7. Okay, people are puzzled. Can you figure out what molecule this is? What's the text that produced this? It's again sorted alphabetic, so don't interpret the order in any way. TAA, T, G, TGT. There's a letter missing. Hold on. One more. Is this the right length? 7 should be. Yeah. Did we use everything exactly once? This one's there.
GA has to be the start because there's no other one having GA in the last two.
Yeah, seems to match. Do you want to describe how you approach this? Or it's a small enough example, you just try randomly puzzling?
So the first one is GAA and it has to be
Mm-hmm.
Overlapping AAT.
Say it again?
First one is TA, then overlap with the AAT.
There's only one double A that has to be in correspondence. That's right.
and there's no GA in the last two characters.
That's right. So this has to be the start because there's nothing that matches on the beginning. And I think double T signals this is the end. And then kind of greedily just assembling the thing works. Okay, so easy problem. This is just the summary of what you also produced. And here's the solution again. Now let's do a slightly bigger one. And it would be kind of more revealing if you had a bit more time to puzzle with this. And if this was kindergarten, I would have cut out the things and we could puzzle exactly, right? But you already may know where this is going. But let's just try the same strategy, right? You can work out that maybe TAA is a good starting point because there's nothing that ends with TA. Is that right? It looks like it. So there's nothing that ends with TA. So we found our starting K-mer, 3-mer. Good. Now I have to find something that starts with AA. Okay, it's also just one option. And then something that starts with AT. Now, because they're alphabetic, there's a whole bunch of things starting with AT. Okay. So far, there was no choice, really. But for the next step, so here there's several things that start with AT, but they're duplicates. But for the next one, the TG, you have options, 3 options. And now it's not clear which one we should take. And it's also clear that not all 3 will be correct. And so if we say, for example, we pick this one, then you see you can continue for one more step, but then you're stuck with the end TT. There's nothing that starts with TT, so while this is the beginning, this has to be the end. It's a coincidence that they're next to each other. But here we're done. We can't continue, but we haven't used nearly all of the K-mers, so this can't be the original text. So somehow this choice was wrong. So we could go back and say that was the wrong choice. Let's take another turn in this maze. And then let's say we do that. So at this point, after ATG, we now choose the TGC, not the T. Maybe that's the right choice. And then you continue. And again, you arrive at the end. And now it looks better. But if you watch closely, we're still 1 nucleotide too short. There's another one where we could have, maybe you see which one's missing. It's actually one, the triple G. And it's kind of clear that it has to be something like this because I have to be able to insert this one extra thing without disrupting the whole thing, right? This is almost just possible with something self-similar. Anyways, so here you could have done the GGG first, and then you're happy. And of course, then that's a solution. Now, in general, you may already see it could be tricky to make the right choices. We need to somehow globally look at this. Okay, but at least the puzzle seems a little more manageable with this assumption that you have this full K-mer composition. Now, we would not like to systematically keep trying dead ends. We would have like a systematic algorithm. So what could we do? It's a small group. Maybe you want to make some suggestions out of the blue. What would be your gut feeling would work? And if you've seen it already, like, okay, forget it, but
similar to the first algorithm we did. Maybe we can start with the start by finding the first, like the start and the end.
That's right. Starting beginning and end is always a good idea. Now, in general, is it clear that the beginning and end is uniquely recognizable? Maybe not, right? There's no guarantee that the beginning one can't also occur somewhere in the middle, maybe as a duplicate. Like for the sake of argument, say the text is just all A's. All the k-mers are all A's. Now, this is easy because they're also the same. One of them will be the starting point. But I guess you can tweak the example. But still, you're right. If there's a unique starting and end point that we should use, sometimes there isn't. The other piece that we used repeatedly was we have one k-mer. Now, what are possible next steps? They have to overlap apart from the first and last symbol. So that looks like an edge, right? I can connect two k-mers by an edge if they are overlapping in the right way. And then I have edges, so maybe something of a graph is a good idea to represent the data. And let's maybe just try that before we think about the problem. I just wanted to throw that one in. The kind of puzzle we were doing, the tricky bit here comes from having choice, where several things match in the same way. And that comes essentially from having this substring repeated in the original text. And the same is true if you do ordinary puzzles, but puzzles where you don't have the shape of the pieces telling you much. Then this is kind of easy if the pieces are all uniquely, if there's only two ways, two pieces that match across an edge. If you have patterns like in this puzzle, where there's many patterns that occur many times, then it seems much harder. So hard, indeed, that apart from the creator of the puzzle, nobody has ever found the solution to this yet. And there was a substantial prize money attached to this. And essentially, people gave up at some point. I don't know if the competition is still open. The puzzle still exists. And the inventor claims there is a solution. Let's suppose we believe that. So these puzzles with repetitions can get very, very hard. Okay, so maybe we should manage our expectations here. Let's try this idea of edges and graphs and see where that leads us. I'll call it the overlap graph for the obvious reason. Let's formally define again what I said already before informally. You're given such a k-mer composition. Now this you can actually define whether or not there is a single string that this comes from. Let's just say some multiset of k-mers. Then we define a graph where the vertices are essentially these reads or these k-mers. I gave them lowercase letters here so that we have a separate vertex for all the k-mers, even if they're duplicates. Okay? So I'm always going to have as many vertices in this graph as there are entries in the input, but there might be several that have the same k-mer associated with them. Is that clear, the distinction? So each of these vertices, we will label them with the k-mer, and so there will be several vertices potentially with the same label. But I want them as vertices to be distinct. And then we have an edge. This is a directed graph, because again, like if you have some k-mer like this, the orientation of the edge should go from this guy to that guy. It's a directed relation because there's an ordering. So there's a directed edge from Ri to Rj, exactly in this case. The last k-1 letters of Ri match the first k-1 letters of Rj. It's just formalized what I just said. And here's an example. Again, this is taken from the book because they drew it so nicely with colors that I felt it's not much fun in me redoing the drawing. So here's an example text where this comes from. The first step, this is just the backbone. This is the edges that are obviously there from what we have in the text. Now, the graph we defined, of course, will have more edges because there are some examples. For example, this one starts with AT. This one ends with AT. So we should have an edge like this as well, right? And there's a bunch of others. Okay, this edge is drawn down here. But there's a bunch of other edges that come from this same overlap. Now, if I have the graph given like this, it's obvious how I can read off the original text, but that's not really what it looks like. You should rather think of the ordering of the vertices being uninformative, say alphabetic, and then is a bit more messy. But as a graph theoretic notion, what are we looking for here? What is corresponding to this chain of letters where if I read them from left to right, for the first one I write the entire 3 letters, but for the next ones I always just read the last letter and add it. If I do this here along this chain, then I get the original text back. In graph theoretic terms, what would I need from this graph? Yeah, so along, first of all, a path, right? I have to follow edges to construct something that nicely overlaps. And I want a long path, essentially a maximally long path. I want a path that contains every single vertex, right? Because I want every single k-mer to be used in the construction of the text. So these things are called Hamiltonian paths. So in this overlap graph. In one way, that's good news. If something has a name, you can Google the algorithms for it. It's also bad news because we already know that this is a hard problem. So we kind of reduced our problem, if you want, to finding Hamiltonian paths in this overlap graph. This should be GO. And here's an example in the non-linear arrangement. And I think a nice if you follow through the edges, you'll see that this is a different text that also matches the same k-mer composition. So even in our perfect world, where we assume that our input is a clean k-mer composition of a single text, it can happen that the graph allows several Hamiltonian paths, and the problem is not uniquely solvable. We'll have to live with that. There's essentially some limitation of the kind of data we have. Again, this is not so much a concern for practical inputs. The reads tend to be so long that this rarely happens. Okay, so this is little problem. Result may not be unambiguous. Bigger problem, we identified that what we want to solve is an NP-complete problem. So there's not going to be a black box solution. Okay, maybe this wasn't too surprising. Why not? GGG says the definition of the overlap graph. I mean, no Hamiltonian cycle can ever use this loop, so you might as well leave it out. Fair enough. The definition of the graph says I have an edge. So, is a fair point. Like this self loop will never ever be used. Not in this case where we have a single like duplicate k-mers each get a vertex. Yeah, it's never going to be used. So again, we've ran into a hard problem, and that even ignores how to compute this graph. I guess it's clear that this is not an NP-hard problem. You compute for every pair of k-mers, whether they overlap or not. So it's quadratic in the number of k-mers. That's not, from complexity theory perspective, a bad thing. In terms of the application, it is a bad thing because you have lots of these reads. But okay, we also have to solve the Hamiltonian path problem. So we're in double trouble.